Good morning, good morning. How are you this morning? This is Joe McGill, and you're listening to the Saturday Supplement. Now, with the support of Kerry Mental Health Association, we are welcoming you into a virtual Christmas cafe, a Christmas Connect Cafe. Christmas is a joyful time of the year for many, but it also is a difficult time of the year for others. And regretfully, more people will experience the latter this year due to COVID-19. Today's program is all about connecting with and looking out for others with a view to promoting positive mental health. Now, there may be a vaccine on the horizon, but in the meantime, we need to continue restricting our movements and social contacts. And where contact is possible, we need to maintain social distance from family and friends. Despite this, it's still possible to connect and share a conversation from afar or from a few meters. In our Virtual Christmas Connect Cafe, we're bringing together some well-known people from every corner of Kerry and beyond for a very special radio program, which will also be available to watch online in the coming days. Now, today on the program, we have many contributors from around the county, some great characters and some great people. We have event manager and stage school owner Brian Carr, renowned photographer Dominic Walsh, Pa Lucid from Mockra na Ferma, Kerry, storyteller Francis Kennedy, Charlie Burke from Quilta, theatre director and event manager Oliver Hurley, and well-known singer and storyteller Sonny Egan. You're all very welcome, first of all. And but before we get to talk to you, which I'm really looking forward to, we're going to talk to the formerly of this parish, still of this parish, I would say, John Drummy, General Manager of Kerry Mental Health Association. John, you're very welcome, and congratulations on putting this all together.
Thanks a million, Joe. Delighted to be here and delighted to be involved in all of this. It's great to celebrate Christmas, but also to be mindful of minding ourselves and looking after others at the same time.
So tell us, John, what's a Connect Cafe, first of all, before we go any further?
Well, these outlets exist. They're there to open up conversations about how we connect and strengthen the connection with ourselves, with others, and with our community, effectively. The research shows that there are simple things we can do as part of our daily life to protect our mental health, and connecting is one of them. And there's so many different ways we can do it. It's long been one of the functions of the volunteers of Kerry Mental Health Association, and we're delighted to have received support from Mental Health Ireland for today's broadcast as well, who we work very closely with, and we thank them for that. So this is an opportunity to open up conversations and to connect with each other.
Very good. So what has the year been like, looking back, for Kerry Mental Health Association?
Well, we're a charity like other charities. We rely on the goodwill and the generosity of volunteers and the money received through a range of fundraising activities. I was appointed to the position in October, and the role is to lead the organisation, to recruit, to motivate volunteers, to develop, to implement and manage business strategies and plans for the association. We've 9 branches. They make up the association right around the county. We pursue befriending and support activities to enrich the lives of neighbours and friends who are living with mental illness. But unfortunately, like other charities, due to COVID-19, our fundraising and befriending activities seriously curtailed this year. Our branches have been unable to hold their annual church gate collections or Flag Day events, and the various outings that they would have had and visits, they just didn't take place. So thankfully, there's money in the bank to keep things going, but we wouldn't want this to continue much longer.
Yeah, it's been a tough time for all charities, but hopefully there's brighter times ahead. Now, people at home mightn't see this, if you're not watching online, if you're listening to it, but we've some wonderful backgrounds here. We have Brian Carr's a beautiful Christmas setting there behind him. Francis is after leaving the reindeers into her house, and there's a wonderful woodland feature with snow in the background, and there's Christmas jumpers and everything. So we will be talking about Christmas memories. And John, I want to talk about what your own Christmas memories. What stands out to you?
Well, there's loads of Christmas memories. I'll be 50 next year, even though I'm actually saying I'll be 49 next year because I'm writing off 2020. There's loads of Christmas memories, be it the annual photo with Dad that Mum always takes of it started with 1, then 2, then 3, and then my 3 siblings and myself. So 4 of us with Dad, and that's one. And I know Dominic might talk about photographs in a while, because not everyone could do that this year. So that's when you have that memory, and when you can't be together like this year, you value it all that more. Various Christmas presents. I got a snooker table one year as a Christmas present. There was no room for it, but so we had to get a small queue so we could get the small shots up, where the wall was too close. But I brought in my one of my earliest Christmas presents. I brought it in with me, so I'm just going to angle the camera around here.
Whoa!
This is a 1973 Tubby.
Say that again, John.
It's a 1973 or 1974 car. I would have been 3 years of age at the time, and I asked Santa for a car and a sausage. And when I came down on Christmas morning, there was the car, and on the seat of the car was a sausage. It wasn't cooked, it was a raw sausage. So we cooked the sausage and had it for breakfast. It wouldn't have been good to keep the sausage for nearly 50 years, but...
Why a sausage, John?
No idea. No idea.
And that's not like when you said you were going to bring in a car you got for Christmas. I was expecting this small thing you'd put in your hand like a dinky car. That's a fine car. There's pedals and it works, and you could go around town with that. You need tax and insurance for that, I'd say.
Well, you would, and I know there are people who would be very quick to slag me off and say, "Do I still fit into it?" I'm not too far off it, to be quite honest. But so it's great. It was great to bring it down from my parents' attic we all cleaned it up yesterday with the children, and they had great fun. And the youngest, who's 3, she sat into it and she put her baby into it as well. So that's the memory, and it always, it makes me feel good, and that's great.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Look, we are going to be talking about happy times, but it can be a difficult time as well, Christmas, and especially this one now when, maybe families won't be coming home and social isolation will be there. But what if someone is experiencing, a mental health crisis over Christmas? What should they do?
Yeah, look, there's so many different resources out there. If you are experiencing a crisis, I have it written down here because it's always better just to be sure what's been said. If you can't cope and if you do need support, you should call your GP. And I know GPs mightn't all be working over Christmas, so South Doc is also an option. There's a new service. It's text hello to 50808. If your life, or if you feel someone else's life is at imminent risk, then you can also call emergency services 112 or 999 for emergency help. This 50808 number is the first of its kind in Ireland. It's a 24/7 text service. It provides everything from a calming chat to immediate support for people going through a mental health or an emotional crisis of any shape or form, big or small, it doesn't matter. So text hello to 50808. You can start a conversation day or night. And then, of course, you have the others. You have the Samaritans and Pieta and others are there too for you. So, a problem shared is a problem halved. But in saying that, the person who might be experiencing the problem mightn't realize it themselves. So somebody else might be able to identify it. And when you haven't seen somebody possibly from one end of the year to the other, you might say, they're not the way they were last year. They seem different. Well, it has been a difficult year, and maybe Christmas is that time when it just becomes that little bit too much.
Very good. Well, thanks a million, John. And John, you're staying in the cafe with us, so have a cup of coffee there or something for a while. You'll be coming back in at the end to talk to us. Very shortly, we're going to be talking to my good friend Dominic Walsh. We're first Saturday of every month with our special In Focus photo section, and we'll be talking about his wonderful photos and different bits and bobs. This is our Virtual Christmas Connect Café in a very special Saturday supplement with the support of Kerry Mental Health Association. We're promoting positive mental health throughout Christmas in Kerry during COVID-19. This year, photographer Dominic Walsh has kept a photo diary of Kerry during COVID-19, and throughout the first wave of the pandemic, he discussed the many photos he had taken each week and the stories behind them. Dominic, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for having me on.
This is unusual. Now, usually I meet you the first Saturday on our program, but it has been a very different time. And we were saying, even during this, it's kind of been an historic time for you because you've had access to photos and taking photos that no one else would have got. You must have built up some collection this year.
Well, I have actually, Joe. It's been an unprecedented year for me because at the start of the year, when the COVID came in and the shutdown came in, my business within 2 weeks was gone. So I'd no business for nearly 6 months. My diary was gone dry. I couldn't sit at home doing nothing. I'm a photojournalist. So I decided to act very quickly and talk to other photographers around the country and ask them what they were trying to do or what they were going to do. And we kind of came to a collective way that as photojournalists, we should go along and documentate what's happening, people's lives, what COVID is doing, because one day people were going around talking to each other, meeting each other, laughing, joking, and Ryan, you could go for a swim, you'd meet people, you could go for a walk, you'd meet people. Suddenly then that was all gone. And I could leave my home and go to work, and I created work for myself. The first 2 weeks it was brilliant going around because there was nobody there, there was no traffic, there was no people on the beaches, there was nobody swimming, nobody walking, nobody shopping, and there was nobody in restaurants. But after 2 weeks, it finally hit me that, like, you know, I mean, it's very serious. I think when you get news like this, that there's a pandemic coming, I think the majority of us thought that it might be a 2-week period or it might be 3 weeks. I don't think people realized actually that it's long term. I know there's the vaccine coming and it's next year coming as well. Now, what I did now, I pulled on my experiences from 2008 when we first had that crash. And when it happened to me, I just put my mind into gear. My wife and I sat down and spoke. And our first thoughts were, what is our expenditure going out of the home? So what we did was straight away contacted our bank and our loans and tried to manage all these. Basically, I tried to shut down all my outgoings of the home so that my incomings that were quite small, I could actually walk through that. So in hindsight, got onto the bank, they stopped the mortgage and everything is going, and like everything was going quite well. But you know something, what I found very handy in my predicament, I'm quite close to a lot of other photographers within the region, within around the country as well. And what we used to do is we used to ring each other a lot. Now, I wouldn't ring these people from one end of the year to the other. I might meet them once a year at functions, things like that. But it's amazing how you can draw on very slight friendships that are there. Yeah. You mightn't talk to them, but you could ring up somebody and say, look, how are you doing today? Or how are you coping with this? And amazingly enough, nearly everybody I spoke to was almost in the same position as myself. So getting onto that, went off out, taking pictures of people. Then I started covering events. I was allowed into hospitals, Garda stations, you know, the fire service had me in there, the schools and all the health services, and I was around working with them. And I don't think I realized or other people realized of how much background work was still undergoing and underway. I don't know that people realized that all the health services were still there working away. All the mental health services were still there working away in the background. So I think, was there a lapse in judgment for a while? I think the government, everybody left it a little bit late to come in and say, look, all these services are still working, because I think the essential services probably needed to come in sooner and let people know that these services were there. But I think everybody knows they're there now, and if everybody needs any help, it's not that difficult. And look, it's okay to be down. That's the thing. And it's relatively okay, and there's not a bother of asking for help, because I think we're all in the same boat and it's good for us all. What would I, yes, sorry, John?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think you made a good point there about we often don't do that. We operate within our own bubble, and it's important, like, to pick up the phone, let someone else maybe in the same. Say if it is business that you're talking about there, to reach out to someone else in the same business and to see what they're going through, because often a problem shared is a problem halved as well. And when you're hearing someone else is going through it and you can bounce off each other, that's so important.
It is so important. But see, the thing is, like, I'm the breadwinner in this house. I'm self-employed in this house. My wife helps me along as well. So all the responsibility of all the income into this house falls on me. Now, yes, I was talking to my wife, but there's sometimes you don't want to be badgering on too much about how difficult things are. And it's easy to badger on to somebody else and to talk to somebody else, because you can talk to them and they're not judgmental and they're not telling you what to do or what not to do. So I thought, to be honest, I thought it was great. And it was great. And another thing that helped me along the way, actually, would you believe it, like Radio Kerry approached me then about this idea that they had about what do people do during COVID. And we came up with this idea of people going around their homes, taking pictures from their mobile phones of just around their homes, outside in their gardens. And as you know yourself, Joe, we started it thinking that very few people might take part in it. And we just couldn't cope with the response that came in from people, just ordinary people sitting at home in their kitchens, in their dining rooms, that couldn't leave their homes, were coming up with these amazing pictures of animals, of their homes, of each other, of things they were doing. Some people were putting on little shows and things like that, and they were there. And what it did was that went along and it brought everybody up. I've spoken to a lot of people since about the radio show on that, and they recognize the voice, but they have said that the importance of listen to somebody else that has taken a picture, and we're talking about the picture on the radio and the amount of enjoyment that it gives them. They're simple photographs, but they mean a lot to people, and other people can all kind of, how can I say, they can interact and they can understand and they can feel for those pictures, and they'll say, oh, off they went. I think it was a fantastic idea by Radio Kerry, and I think it helped everybody, you know?
Yeah, and lots of people were taking up different hobbies during this lockdown, but this became a new hobby, photography, for a few people. They that didn't, maybe were taking photos 20 years ago, but they went back at it now, so it was amazing. And then I'm just thinking of the photos we got sent in relation to maybe the first baby. You know, there was a lot of babies born this year, maybe the grandparents outside the window with remember that one with the hand up to the window looking at the baby, waving at the baby, and you had a grandfather playing X's and O's on the window pane with his grandkids outside. There were some beautiful photos, but your photos as well, Dominic, are amazing. I think they'll stand there for the rest of time, long after we're gone. But we'll talk about Christmas, Dominic. Christmas is a real, like I know at home, like our family portraits, you probably have the confirmation communion and then there's a Christmas one, or maybe when the Yanks had come home, you'd get a photo like that. So Christmas is a big time for taking photos. And what are the ones that stand out to yourself, or what stands out to you about taking photos at Christmas time? Because there's some wonderful family shots as well.
Oh, there is. Like, look, Christmas is an amazing time. It would actually be quite a busy time for me in my business as well as a photographer, like, you know, and let's start off, like, you know, like you got the nativity plays, you know, like you've got the turning on of the lights, you've got the Christmas swims, you've got the family going getting the Christmas tree, you've got the families going getting the shopping, you've the shopping coming home, it's all laid out in the count, and they're taking pictures, sending off to Nana and Granddad and things like that, you know, on that. But these are things actually that, you know, yes, we have missed out on them, but you don't actually have to miss out on this. Like, what people can do is, like, you know, like if you want a Christmas swim, go in and get a big bucket of water and splash on yourselves, get everybody to do that in the family and put the pictures in the composite together. You've all got pictures. Just because people are on their own, that doesn't mean that they're on their own for Christmas. Because, like, the thing about this year, specific to any other year, people actually can create history. They can document a time of the year, the pandemic 2020. And these pictures that they take during Christmas, in years and years and years to come, they will be looked at and say, this is what we did. This is how we actually got through Christmas and we couldn't meet people or see people or anything like that. My advice to people is take a picture and send it on to somebody that you might know so well like that. Maybe a scenery or something like that, you know, on that. And another bit of advice, if you see somebody passing, wave the hand and say hello and say, have a nice day. You'd be very surprised what that does to people. In my job, when I approach people, you know, I'm always saying, how are you doing? How are things? And I interact first before I actually slap a camera and put a camera in their face. And I find I get a lot better reaction off people like that, you know. So people out there, get the pictures taken just because they're not there, the family aren't there, take the pictures. Like John Drummy said there, they're documenting pictures every year of their lives coming along, from when there was 1 child, 2 child, 3 child, and a number of kids. Families can still do that now. Young people are away. I was talking to a gentleman during the week, and he was quite upset actually, and he was telling me that he was here in Ireland, and his son worked for the health service in England. And he gave his time up for Christmas. He decided not to come home. He said he'd stay over and help the health service over there. But what the health service have done in England, they've tried to shut it down a little bit so they can let a lot more people have more time at home. So this young man was on to his phone now saying, I've given all my time, and now he's after realizing he's loads of spare time. But what the family are doing is they're having a Zoom Christmas dinner. You know, so like it's going to be, the iPad is going to be put on the table. They're putting out a knife and fork and a plate, and they're going to dish him up his meal. He's going to get his start to his main course, and he's probably going to be back in the apartment. No, probably having burgers and chips in the meantime, you know. But that's how families can interact, people that are not part of a family, like, and it's something we should all think about as well. Keep clicking and keep taking those pictures.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Donald, what you said as well earlier about how are things, and sometimes we just throw out how are things as almost a hello, but not actually asking how someone is, and we move on straight away. So maybe we should wait for an answer when we do ask how are things. Donald, before I finish up, what will you do Christmas Day now? Because I'd imagine a lot of your morning was taken up with the Christmas Day swims, was it? You know, taking photos and things like that?
Well, every year I do the Christmas swims. For many, many years, I was swim myself. But then I kind of gave that up with work because I thought I could get a lot more out of taking pictures. To be honest, I'm probably going to be out in the days coming up to Christmas, and I will be around as I am going around. But what I tend to see is, even though the swims aren't going ahead, People might be out there walking the local community. So something will happen. I'm sure you're going to get some people that will do the swim. The people that are probably close to the beach and are within that limit of travel time, they will attend the beaches. But I think people will still get out and go for a walk out there and look, wave the hand and salute. That's all it is. And you'll be very surprised what a wave of the hand or just to say hello does to people.
Very good. Twice in 1 month we've you on now, Dominic. That's all right by me. We'll have you on again in the new year. But a very happy Christmas to you and a happy new year, Dominic Walsh.
And to you, Joe, and all your listeners. And thank you very much for your time over the year.
Very good. Next up, we'll be talking to Charlie Burke. He is the Recreation Administrator for Kilta with the responsibility of event management. You're listening to our very special Virtual Christmas Connect Café, and this in association with the Kerry Mental Health Association. We're speaking to various contributors from around the county. We have our own little cafe going here, and it's wonderful here this morning. Now I'm going to talk to Charlie Burke. He's the Recreation Administrator for Kilta with responsibility for event management, and he also delivers public health programs at local and national level. Among these are the Green Ribbon Walks, those fantastic walks at Kilta Forest Parks, and they're held in collaboration with Mental Health Ireland, IFA and Sea Change, with a view to encourage people to get out and walk and talk. Charlie, you're involved with Wicklow Mental Health Association, and you've been living with mental illness for many years. What's Christmas and the winter period like for you yourself?
Well, just to say, I've been living with good mental health for years also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Christmas is a very special time for people. It's a difficult time for people with a mental illness, depression, or the onset of winter leads to difficulties for people during the winter, because I would slow down the darkness, cold weather, all that kind of thing. And then people of all walks of life may experience SAD, seasonal affective disorder, which has from say November to February is quite a difficult time for a lot of people because of the darkness and the cold, you know, and it's difficult for people. But getting out and walking is very good at any time of the year, but you have to encourage yourself to get up and out during the winter. It's harder to do it, and that's why when people are affected by SAD or affected by depression, a lot of people stay at home. But it's that very time that you have to get out and connect with people.
Yeah,
it's difficult. It is difficult for everybody, you know.
You have to be kind of aware of yourself, if you know what I mean, and kind of know that that's coming, and be kind of proactive to get out ahead of it.
Yes, you can notice the onset of a depression, the slowing down, the mind and body slowing down, the appetite you might have for foods, the lack of interest in being around people, being around partners and friends, a withdrawal from people, you know.
And how have you coped yourself in relation to that?
I have coped. I had some medical treatment, some medication, but I'm also very proactive in terms of getting up and out. I'm involved with a lot of different areas. I run the Wicklow Mental Health Association, and that actually brought. I started. I've been involved with the Mental Health Association for the last 20 years, and in 2012, I joined the Creative Recreation team, and we decided that we would run a program. There's a program called Branching Out. It was a nicotherapy program in Scotland, and we decided we'd adapt this for Ireland, and started the program in Wicklow with 15 participants. and now it's spread all around the country. And there's one in Kerry. It's run out of Tralee. They're HSC patients on referral from the mental health service, adult patients, and it's meant a lot for people. There has been over 1,500 people have benefited so far nationally. So that's a nice thing to be involved with, and it's nice that the company in Quilta provided me with this opportunity to do this kind of thing, and it's meant a lot to, not only for me but for many other people as well.
Because you've been involved in a lot of activities and actions down through the years, haven't you? And tell us about them.
Well, on the Quilta side, in 2013, we started the Green Ribbon Let's Walk and Talk campaign. And basically, the IFA came to us and asked them, could we do something for farmers and for the members of the rural communities? So we started the Let's Walk and Talk walks. Essentially, they're not about who can stride so fast or whatever. It's about sociability. It's about having those chats and being around the country. We had one in Kilclohan there a couple of years ago. Being around the country, I've got to talk to farmers and local communities. And really, rural isolation is a huge problem because just take for a farmer, years ago you would have people come selling cattle and sheep and fertilizers and all that kind of stuff. And in more recent years, some marts closed down. Some counties don't have marts. Glanbia and other big co-ops sell the fertilizer. You buy it online, you go and collect it, or you have it delivered. But basically, the postman who used to deliver the post delivers to the box at the end of the lane. And not to say that farmers are drinkers or anything like that, but the rural pub used to be a hub for farmers where they could go and meet people, not to drink a whole lot, and maybe just to have tea and coffee, but to have the chat. And there's a lot of factors happened over the years that has created rural isolation. So the Walk and Talk campaign is a big thing in the IFA's calendar, and we love doing it for them. And we have done it in 18 counties so far. It's an annual campaign. It's for the Green Ribbon, the international symbol for mental health awareness. And the Green Ribbon is the international symbol for mental health, much in the way as the blue and the pink are for cancer. So it's a real pleasure to work with Mental Health Ireland and Sea Change, who brought the Green Ribbon into Ireland. So it's just great to be able to give something to people.
Yeah. It's so important what you're saying there, Charlie, because I know, especially in rural Kerry, like there was the amount of activities for farmers and say, farmers living alone that have changed over the years. There was the day at the bog, it was a social occasion. There was the day at the silage or the hay, there was loads of people would meet. The creamery, you'd go and you'd meet, and all them things slowly dwindled away. And that's why initiatives like the one you just talked about there are so important. You made the distinction, Charlie, at the start about that you've been living with mental health for many years as well. And that is an important distinction to make. Nothing defines us either.
No, and you hear statistics like 1 in 4 suffer from depression, 1 in 4 suffer from mental illness. But I believe that it's everybody suffers at some stage from some kind of trauma or whatever brings on the onset of a mental unwellness for periods. For some people, it's short periods. For some people, it may last over a lifetime. But there are many ways you can do, many things you can do to help your mental health. Take, for instance, Mental Health Ireland. Mental Health Ireland's role really is to promote positive mental health. And at the moment, they have a fantastic advent calendar on their website. It's all about promotion of mental health and well-being. So it's worth a look at this time of the year.
Yeah.
And, people like John Drummy that are working hard in Kerry to promote positive mental health are very much valued by that organisation.
Before we let you go, John Drummy showed his card there. Can you remember your first Christmas present from Santi?
I can. I got 6 cars. I got 6 cars. I got a car transporter.
Oh, whoa.
I had 3 Mercedes on the bottom and 3 sports cars on the top. And it was a very sad day a couple of days later because one of my brothers stood on top of one of the Mercedes cars and he broke the roof.
Oh.
So it's one of the first Mercedes to have an open top car because we had to get the saw and cut the roof off the car. But it was a great time, and I have to say, Santi's a great guy. He's an altogether great guy, and really love him very much. And I have my little Santa scarf here.
I can hear it. I can hear it. Wonderful. Charlie, we want to wish you a very happy Christmas. You don't have the car. John Drummy still has the car, but John Drummy probably still has his communion money, but we won't go there.
And wishing you all a happy Christmas in Kerry.
Thanks a million, Charlie Burke, Recreation Administrator for Kilta, responsibility for event management and the wonderful work you do. Congratulations and well done. And a very happy Christmas and a happy New Year's to you and yours.
And to you. Thanks for having me on.
And now I'm delighted to say we're going to talk to Oliver Hurley, an award-winning director of Musical Society Productions in Kerry and beyond, operations manager of the Rose of Tralee International Festival, owner of Oliver Hurley School of Musical Theatre, and former artistic director of Sheen Satira, the National Folk Theatre of Ireland. Oliver, you're a busy man, but I wonder now, with recent events, how has COVID-19 affected your Christmas?
Totally. I suppose at this time of year I would normally be in the thick of rehearsals for Christmas Panto, which I've been running in Sheen Satira for the last 15 years. And even prior to that, Christmas was always about performing for us because I would have grown up in the Sheen Satira company, and under the direction of Father Pat Ahern, every Christmas we had our Christmas concert. So for me, Christmas is all about stage, I suppose, performing, and specifically Christmas music. Something that I really miss is the choral work and all that we used to do long ago in Sheen Satira. So yeah, very different Christmas for me this year.
Yeah, and that has formed the traditions of many families around this county, going to the theatre, going to pantos, going to plays, the choral music that you mentioned. It's such in our DNA, and it's the fabric of Kerry. It's a huge loss, isn't it?
It's a massive loss. I mean, when you look at Christmas, for me, I suppose, was always about music and still is. And I suppose music can bring us to another place. And I suppose when we talk about, people with mental issues, music can transform you and bring you to a different space. And I think that's very important in these times, to take us at times away from the reality of what's happening and just allow us to escape.
Yeah. How has it affected you since March now? Like, I'd imagine it has been completely, life changing. Like,
Joe, it was like a switch. It was like a switch in March. In one day, everything stopped for me. I was in the middle of 2 productions, one above in Thurles with Thurles Musical Society, 2 weeks to go to a show already. Set was built. And then with Tralee, I was about 3 weeks away from a production there. We were in the thick of the organising the festival. Most of the stuff was booked of the Rose of Tralee Festival and my stage school. All in one day, I shut everything down. I had to stop. So for me, I'm the kind of guy that's going night and day, you know what I mean? Daytime in the office, out rehearsals at night time. So everything stopped for me. And I suppose at the start, a bit of a novelty, Joe. I was off, I was free. My daughter moved back from Dublin. My son was here with us. And a novelty at the start, 3 weeks. And then 3 weeks into it, it was getting more difficult, I suppose. I found ways, I suppose, of occupying myself. My children introduced me to TikTok. I'd heard of it, but I hadn't really explored it. So they said, Dad, we have to do something. So by God, were they sorry. Because a month into, they were going, Dad, no more. I was getting creative every week, and I do more and more. It was just keeping me going, because I suppose I'd be the kind of fella that had to produce something at the end of a week, be it a festival or be it an event or be it a show. I missed that. And I suppose
you need that outlet.
I needed that outlet. So TikTok became it. But then it went a bit further. Every week I set up in my house, I'd set up a themed bar Okay, and it was purely to keep me going. I'd pull stuff from the shed, and I'd have a costume room here, and I'd have stuff. And so each week, every Friday, my house became a Hawaiian bar, an ice bar, a beach bar, an Irish bar. I themed them every week. So every Friday, by the end of it, I was taking 2 days to set it up. So it kept me going. You know, I'd finish one week and I'd think, what will I do next week? So it was the kind of thing that kept me going.
And what were you doing? Like, you weren't running an illegal shebeed here, though, just to clarify. So you were putting this up on Facebook, is it, or something? Yeah.
Exactly. I put it up on Facebook every week, and I suppose friends of mine would comment, and they'd be waiting every week to see what's it going to be this week. It'd be a surprise. A lot of work. People were thinking we were having a great time, but it was purely a facade, to be honest. You know what I mean? It was purely just me trying to keep myself occupied and busy. But I suppose since then, meeting people after that first lockdown and afterwards, they were going to me, they're going, my God, you kept me going. You know, and I didn't expect that. I didn't expect the reaction that I was getting from people going, we'd wait every week, it put a smile on our face, you know, we were living it with you. You know, so it did something else apart from me occupying myself. There was kind of an outreach thing there to others, I think.
Yeah. I think that's where, like, social media really helped, actually, during this whole lockdown. It did keep people connected, which we're talking about today. A little birdie told me you're a big fan of the Christmas song, "Oh Holy Night."
Oh.
What is it about that song?
There's a madness attached to that song, and Brian Carr will remember this. We had, after one of our Rosary festivals, we actually brought the Vintners out as a thank you, you know, as an organisation. We brought them together. And going out with Vintners was an album because you don't normally meet them in a social scene. They're always behind bars and all that sort of stuff. So it was going to be an odd night. So a few drinks in, we were looking around, and there was only about 20 of us, I suppose. And Brian and me looked at each other and go, we're going to have a sing-song. So an hour into it, we had every vintner in town as part of a choir, and they thought they were wonderful. You know what I mean? And we were conducting them. Brian and me were throwing in the harmonies, and they thought they were brilliant. And A Holy Night kind of started then. But it's one of these things that has followed me, particular in that anywhere we are now, I'm known for creating a choir with A Holy Night. And that can happen in the strangest of places. And best not, it should never happen at Christmas time. It happens at other times of the year in the square in Tralee or at other functions. They all say, okay, Oliver, we have A Holy Night. We'll all come together and we all just sing it as a choir. Madness it is, but it's one of those songs that is going to haunt me.
Before we finish, I'm just wondering, and like, you know, we do Creative Kingdom here every month about the artistic world in Kerry, and the last one we did, the December one we did, now there was a bit more positivity looking forward in the arts world. Now I know it's the last always to go back, and that'll be the issue, but how are you feeling about it now yourself? How are you feeling about it?
I kept myself going throughout the process, thinking, you know, we're going into lockdown 2, and in lockdown 2, or in that form, I would have been able to do a panto with 100 people. So I kept myself going mentally by going, you know, and there's always a goal to reach. So, and now more than ever, I suppose, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we know it's going to take time, but we've been given the green light now that stage schools can come back, which for me is massive, because for me throughout the lockdown, I was thinking of the children, and like that, I wanted to connect with them as well. So the students of our school, we'd connect on at a creative level each week, and we put together this video where I asked them all to send in pictures of what they were doing during lockdown. I mean, we put together a lovely montage to music, and it's something we'll always have as a memory for the children, as a history, as a record of the time in lockdown. So we had to become creative, and we'll always become creative. I mean, Stage School is back. We will hopefully by spring be able to put out a production of some sort with the children, be it with limited numbers and all social distancing. But, you know, we're beginning to move in the right direction, and I think for all of us in that industry, there's a positivity now, you know, that we see moving forward.
It's a great note to finish on. Oliver Hurley, thanks a million for coming out and talking to us here in our Virtual Connect Café on the Saturday Supplement. And I'm delighted to say now we're joined by well-known Listowel-based storyteller and singer and all-round talented woman, Frances Kennedy. Frances, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here today talking to you all. We're all living in the virtual world, I think, at this stage.
You have a beautiful winter wonderland behind you there on this Zoom call, which is lovely to see.
That's actually the Alzheimer's Christmas card.
Is it?
That's a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
So and I suppose when you're talking about Christmas, people go back to Christmases of their youth, and you know, I worked in the HSE there for 35 years. I had to pull out this year, and you know, people felt very special at Christmas, you know. And I can even remember myself one of my earliest memories of Christmas is my father died when I was 11, and I was youngest of 11. But we were walking up the passage one Christmas Eve, and the stars were just dancing in the sky. And I was saying, how far away are them stars now? And you know the way you'll be questions, you know, and my father always had great answers. And them stars there now, the gates of heaven are open. And they're all the angels and all the people that have gone before them. And they're all watching down just on you. And they're twinkling just for you. And he went on that, you know, that always remember that you're special. You're special. Nobody else can do what you do. They don't smile like you. They don't sing like you. They don't talk like you. You know, and I think people have forgotten in life that they are special. That I'd always remember that conversation. And like, if others could do what we do, they'd be here doing it. We wouldn't have to do it. And I think people forget how special that every human being is, that every person is, and that their worth is only what they can bring to this world. You know, and I remember then going up further and the lights and the Christmas tree, and it wasn't as though we had a whole pile, but we'd bring in holly for Christmas, and we hadn't much, but we had a lot. And I suppose my father, I suppose, always instilled in us that happiness comes from within. And it wasn't what we get, it's what we can make out of Christmas and make out of any situation. That, you know, and I see even like working the HSC there, and I've been working a lot of Christmases, but people give a lot, staff give a lot, people coming in to see their people on Christmas Day. It means an awful lot. That even getting a letter, you don't have to call. Once you remember them. Like somebody might get a letter that never gets a letter, and they'd be saying, come here, come here, come here. I got a letter today. Will you read it for me? Now, you might be the 30th person that have read that letter today. But they were special, and they were thought of, and somebody wrote to them, do you know? And I suppose, like, just to think of it like that, make some effort, make a phone call. We can't always be there now, but, you know, make a phone call, write a letter, do something to make somebody else feel special.
Yeah, it's beautifully said, Francis. I'm just thinking there, you know, you mentioned you lost your father at 11, and that's when, you know, Christmas can be a happy time, but maybe around the Christmas dinner, that's when you notice someone is gone, and it can be a tough time of loss as well,
Yeah.
you know, and kind of, I suppose, heightening that loss. And how did you find that yourself?
Sure, it was major. It was even that the house was full of people, because with 11 and you know, the crowd in the house, there was always music, there was always song, there was always stories. But all of a sudden, my father was gone, and my father was the man that sat by the fire and told stories the day long. He was, you know, neighbours would call in and, Julia, wait till I tell you. And my father would have some raw meat to tell them truth. No, but it was lies or truth. But sure, what difference did it make? And, you know, like, it wasn't what you had in your plate. It was who was around you. And I suppose there's a lovely recitation. There was 17 in our house. A chicken was no use. So last Christmas we decided we'd better get a goose. But to divide a goose between 17 was not an easy job. But my mother said she'd lay out the board in squares, the same as Croke Park. Squares 1 and 2 were the railway end. That's not too hard to comprehend. Squares 3 and 4 denoted the middle portion of the board, and then you had the canal end, if you'll excuse the word. Well, my mother stacked it into the squares as proud as Christy Ring, and she opened up the back line from the goal post to the wing. She then removed all obstacles that lay across the pitch, and the opening at the railway end, she closed it with a stitch. She then commenced to stuff the bird with everything she saw. And you know, I swear she nearly finished up with a bit of barley straw. Now, Christmas morning mass, I thought I'd ne'er get through. Should I hardly said a prayer at all, only thinking about the goose. My mother went to midnight mass, herself and little Jean. Oh, she had to be up early to cook for 17. Cooking for all that flock was not an easy job, but the goose was on the table at the stroke of 1 o'clock. Well, she didn't commence to carve the bird with diligence and skill. Fair faculty she had to have, with 17 to fill. She stripped squares 1 and 2 of meat down to the Hogan stand. Then she made a beeline for the din like the Acton Boys Band. She severed off the canal end for herself and little Jean, and my father got the leg that was under hill 16. Well, now we all were fairly satisfied, and my father fell asleep. And you know, he said, with the help of God, next Christmas, we'll all attack a sheep. So I suppose whether it is goose, turkey, ham, or a plain rasher you're having at Christmas, sit down, enjoy it, and make a phone call to somebody, call to a neighbour, get out for a walk, salute who you see, say Happy Christmas.
Geez,
Because
Francis, they were talking about online masses, but I would go to your online mass any day anyway if you were hosting. But that was wonderful, Francis, absolutely wonderful.
And
Tell us.
always remember, smile. It's the second best thing you can do with your lips.
Well,
Happy Christmas!
I think that's a great note to finish on. Francis Kennedy, thanks a million for joining us here in our virtual cafe. And a very happy Christmas to you and many of them. And we look forward to seeing you in front of a big audience, because that's what you deserve. Now, we hope you're all enjoying our very special Virtual Christmas Connect Café with the support of Kerry Mental Health Association. It's a very special Christmas Saturday supplement. And well done to John Drummy for organising this. I'm really enjoying it. Now we're going to Brian Carr from Lizelton, who's the owner of Brian Carr School of Performing Arts. Among many other roles, he works closely with a team of volunteers on various events. So, Brian, firstly, you're very welcome. How has COVID-19 affected you and the volunteers you work with?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. It's great to be here. Yeah, I mean, COVID really, it affected everybody, and with volunteering and all that. I think an awful lot of people that I know that work with me through Kerry Volunteer Centre and that we get in for the various festivals that we do, it's been very hard for them because their life is built around giving. And they tend to be at every event that's run in Tralee, especially that we know of. And their life is that connection. They don't necessarily do it for the work, or they mainly do it for the connection and meeting people and talking to people. And there's a few people that I know, granddad and people like that we call them here in Tralee. You know, they've been home alone practically for 6 or 8 months. And making the connections has been very hard to do for people, because some people wouldn't have a computer or wouldn't be that literate, and that's been tough. But I think it's been tough for everybody, but it's finding those little nuggets of enjoyment and the connection and having the phone call or the chat, which is important.
Well, what kind of activities or actions do you or the organisation do to make you or your participants or the people you meet feel good?
Yeah, a lot of it is giving. A lot of it is that sense of the personal connection. So what we would do is, even last year alone, we had a lot of events, cycling events, St. Patrick's Day. We'd have, like with the Rose of Tralee, we'd have all the different park festivals. And at those events, what you tend to do is you might have a core of 8 or 15 or 20 volunteers who every single year or for every single event without fail, they come together. They don't necessarily come for me or for the festival, they come for the connection, and they come for the camaraderie and that sense of hot ball and that Kerry cuteness and that devilment that I think we have here in Kerry, and we're all missing, I think, at the moment. And I think what COVID has taught us is making that connection has kind of been broken a lot for the last couple of months. So we're all just itching next year, hopefully, to kind of get back to that and that personal interaction with people.
Yeah. How have you coped with it yourself personally?
I found it very tough. I found it very tough. You know, I with the kids, with the school, we kept going on Zoom. I mean, Zoom was kind of like was kind of always there, but it just exploded and it went crazy. And so we kept teaching away on Zoom for a couple of weeks. And that was great. And the connection with the kids, we did a lot of virtual videos and posted that. But that died away eventually. And you know, if we had another family Zoom, you know, table quiz or you know, quiz, I'd have gone crazy. But I found it hard. You know, again, like Oliver said, everything just finished and kind of, you know, nothing. It just finished abruptly, especially for event managers and people who were used to running festivals. So what I did is I had to have a plan. So I sat down with my wife and said, right, I need a plan. I need to do something. So after 40, because I was at home schooling with my two kids, and I love that, and I love that engagement, but I didn't have anything for myself. I didn't have a project, or I didn't have a means to an end. So I knew that everything was about to close down. So I went into Pat McDonald's and fair juice to McDonald's. I swear to God, I cleaned the place out with paint. And if anything that moved in the house, it got a lick of paint. And literally, I think I painted it within an inch of its life. So I still have paint in my nail, you know, painted my nails and stuff like that. And I'm finding little pieces I didn't do. And eventually my wife bought into it, and she'd come home and kind of say, oh, I'm not sure of that color. And then I'd have to repaint it again a different color. But it was fine because it was a project, and I was listening to radio all the time, and Radio Kerry were so good, so good at kind of keeping the connection with people and talking through the whole process of what we were all going through. So yeah, so the house, if you come to my house now, it's like one of those houses you see in LA. It's shining.
You know what struck me as well during this whole thing, we're almost primal as human beings, like how much we need interaction and how much we need people, and that has been the most difficult thing of this whole thing, is the social interaction side. And as Kerry people, it is it's ingrained in us to call to people and have the chat and do like we're doing now, you know, to have a conversation. And I suppose, you know, is that something that you found as well? And also, like, I'm just thinking the audience factor, like that gone for you, like, you know, you're used to having an audience and needing an audience. So what has that been like for you?
It was tough. I do a thing called a singing chef, where I dress up and I kind of pretend I'm a chef and come out from the kitchen at weddings and various functions. And I had one of them during the summer with just 15 people, I think, at a wedding. And I missed the connection. I really did. We missed the audiences, and we missed that sense of having to, you know, perform. You know, and I suppose we all, even Francis would probably know that too. We all tend to perform, and we all, you know, engage with an audience. So we miss the audience, and I really miss that sense of connection with people and going around. And also, like at weddings, the most happiest time in a person's life and people's or a family's life, at a wedding where, you know, everything is to be joyous. This one particular wedding I did was just, you know, it was very tough. I found it very tough. Everybody was trying to put on a brave face. And, you know, so it's been very, very tough. And we're just hoping that 6 months from now, we can, you know, return to all that again.
Yeah. What's your favorite Christmas movie, just as a matter of interest?
Oh, my favorite Christmas, The Grinch.
The Grinch. I was looking at you. I was looking at your jumper there. What's that from again? Super.
Yeah, so that's from Mary Poppins.
Yeah, I was wondering, was it that?
My kids in state school got me that. So it was like the best way to learn supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is to sing it. SUPERCALIFRAGILISTICEXPIALIDOCIOUS.
Well, while we have you singing, will you sing us a Christmas carol?
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Good man. What'll you do for us?
I suppose, Oh Come All Ye Faithful. Yeah, Christmas carols, like I see with my kids, it's not, carols really aren't being sung as much anymore in schools. And I don't know, do other people notice that? But younger kids aren't being taught the old traditional carols. And I think they might be dying out a little bit. So I think, maybe anybody listening in, if we could all sing along to Oh Come All Ye Faithful, this would be lovely,
Very good.
Oh, come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. O come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Christ the Lord.
Excellent. Boolabus. Fantastic. Jeez, I was wrapped up in Christmas there now. It was like a warm fire here around me. That was wonderful. Brilliant. Jeez, I'd say you have a great time at Christmas in your house with singing and everything else that's going on. I don't know why. You like the Grinch. You're the most opposite thing of a Grinch.
Yeah, it's like kind of like that bah humbug thing, It's always sometimes you love the villain, really, don't you?
Yeah. Very good, Brian. You know what I'm looking forward to next Christmas when we've everyone on this chat in studio, and we'll have a right good old party. That's what I'm looking forward to. And 2021, I think we're looking forward to it with a bit of positivity. But thanks a million for coming on and sharing your experience.
Not at all. Thanks, Joe, and happy Christmas to everybody out there and to everybody at Radio Kerry and to John for organising this. It's been really great.
And happy Christmas to you too. Brian Carr there from Lisselton. Now we're having great fun in our Virtual Christmas Connect Café this morning. It's with the support of Kerry Mental Health Association. A very special Saturday supplement. And now I'm delighted to say we're joined by Pa Lucid. He is the National Council representative for Macra na Firma in Kerry. And just like COVID-19 won't go away because it's Christmas, the jobs on the farm must also continue during Christmas. And I suppose, Pa, has COVID-19 underlined, the pressures that people in rural Ireland and in particular agriculture already experience on a regular basis?
Good morning, Joe. Yeah, that's for sure. Look, I suppose dairy farming was one of the industries that stayed going during the whole of COVID. When everything else was locked down and everything was stopped, I suppose the farmers were able to. I suppose they had to really just keep the show on the road and keep bringing in the cows and keep milking them and keeping everything going. And the food has to go on the shelves at the end of the day. We were, I suppose, one of the unknown. How would you call it? I suppose essential workers. We farmers don't really get the spotlight, I suppose, that much when it comes to essential workers. But we were working away here in the background the whole time, keeping the good side out and keeping busy.
Yeah, it's just something I noticed though, and like I talked to cocooners. People don't like being called cocooners, but people that were in a vulnerable age. But I talked to a few farmers that into their 80s. But they were actually saying how the farm helped them during this time because, like I mentioned at the start, the show must go on. The animals don't know anything that COVID-19 is around or anything, so they have to be fed in the morning, they have to be looked after, they have to be fed in the evening. So that routine is kept all the time. So it kind of helped, I suppose, from a mental health perspective, it helped a lot, for farmers that, think that the farm had to be looked after.
Yeah, that's for sure. I suppose the one thing about farming is that it's been such an isolating kind of an occupation that I suppose a lot of farmers are used to it, but obviously as we might get onto later on, it can affect a lot of farmers as well. But what has happened this year, I think someone made a comparison to one day there that a lot of people who are working from home now, that they're almost feeling the same as if what a farmer feels the whole time. They're stuck at home, they're not meeting anyone, and so everyone has come down to the level what a farmer is like now, that they're at home all year round, every day of the year, and it's every year. Like the only people they might meet would be like they mentioned earlier on, the postman or the milk lorry driver, the vet, or someone who might call in to see him, you know. But like that, the routine, I suppose, this time of the year now, when dairy farmers, especially, I suppose, when they're drying off cows and stuff, you know, you can feel there in the evenings that, Jesus, the evenings are getting short now, and I've no cows to milk now because they're dried off till the end of January. And what do we do now? Do you know? And that's where I suppose people need to learn to, you know, just have another routine to keep them going for the winter, be it cleaning houses and like Brian mentioned, painting things, you know. So farmers have their own little routine to keep themselves occupied. Even when there aren't cows to be milked, there's still markets to go to, and you know there's always something to be done. We never see a farmer who'll sit back and throw his feet up on the chair for the day and do nothing, you know. So look, we're always keeping busy anyway, and keeping some bit of routine, because it is the most important thing when you are out in a rural community like Kerry is mostly rural, and if you don't have a routine to keep the head and keep yourself mind occupied, you know, it can culminate and it can build up and can lead to you know, mental problems and mental you know, like the depression and stuff can build up over time, and it's something that look it builds up and people don't identify it, I suppose, early enough, and they probably stay away from doctors, or farmers are the last person who want to go to a doctor or go to talk to anyone. So half of us are a bit too manly for that, you know. But look, that's the stigma that's out there at the moment. We're trying to break that down a little bit, you know.
And what has Macra been doing to promote positive mental health?
Yeah, so last Friday, the 4th of December, we held a kind of an online, it was Facebook Live as well, Mind Matters, we call it. Basically, it was an interview with a couple of well-known people. So it was hosted by Radio Kerry's own Aisling O'Brien. We were joined by Finbar Walsh then, who's the father of the late Donald Walsh. We had Peter Hines, who is a well-known dairy farmer from Cork. He'd be well-spoken, always speaking out about mental health, and spoke openly about his own challenges and what he's put up with himself. And we were also joined in by John Keane and Jonathan Dwyer from North Tipperary, who started up a scheme called Make the Move, which is kind of they brought in a lot of farmers, and they trying to set up kind of a help, some sort of a structure that can help out people in rural Ireland and people who are suffering from rural isolation. So there was a lot of stuff out of that night. It was great that we got the chance to be able to do it, because you know, usually these things you'd be on about booking a hotel and booking speakers and selling tickets and whatnot, but we were able to just sit down here in the room, myself, and join up with everyone like we are now on the Zoom call, and be able to put it out on Facebook Live, which is, we have access to millions of people. So the Kerry Macra message was able to go out loud and clear to a way bigger audience than we would have normally been able to get on any other year. So that was one positive side of it anyway, along with what the speakers were able to tell us on the night, which was a very interesting conversation. Now, I suppose being a Macra member, we are kind of, we're always pushing for mental health, and you know, just getting people to open up and talk a bit more, and that was kind of one of the key messages of the night, really. We had a really good farmer there, Peter Hines, who spoke an awful lot about his own, how he identified his own problems, that he was just working all day and all, you know, and not getting the social outlet. It was a massive thing for a dairy farmer, that you're just in the yard every day, and especially when COVID hit, then he was kind of like, there's no pub to go to, there's no place we can go on a Friday night, there's no shows, there's no plays and whatnot. And you know, it was these little small outings that that people started to miss, and that's what they build up over time, and eventually led to you know, him not feeling the very best, and he just came out with something that was very interesting on the night, that with all the farm accidents, we always hear about farm accidents, and the fact that he had on the night was, there's actually more farmers dying from suicide than there is from farm accidents. So that kind of hit us all on the head that night. And said, Jesus, like, you wouldn't think that, and you don't hear that in the news every day, you know. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of interesting thing because we're always listening about farm safety and whatnot, you know.
Yeah, and look, you know, like, that's a frightening statistic, but as well, you know, a lot of people, I suppose, have had to use technology over the last few months, and it's quickened all that up. And like we even seen marts are online. I know one particular individual, he doesn't go to bed till about 1 o'clock watching marts, but like others haven't caught up. And there is people left behind still, that they aren't online. Like they would have maybe gone to a neighbour to play cards, and they would have gone down to the pub, like you said, for the sociable, and that has all stopped. So how important is it for us to check in on our neighbours? One farmer may be offering a hand to another farmer. Like how important is that side of things?
Yeah, that was one of the main messages that the Bible spoke actually that night. John Keane and Jonathan Dwyer, who set up this Make the Move initiative above in North Tipperary, they came up. They actually invited in farmers into a room and asked them all, what is the biggest issue that you find? What's the biggest thing that's affecting you all? And the biggest contributor to that was rural isolation, and it's something that's kind of passed over very often. They're grand, they're out the country, they're happy out. Which is something we often hear, but that's actually the reality of it, and that's what farmers are actually saying, is that the isolation is a big problem. But look, they gave a kind of list of things, just what we can actually do to help out people. So even just to get the right amount of sleep can be a massive thing. A lot of people, like you said, staying up late at night and getting up early in the morning. And look, if you do that over a long period of time, it can affect your mental health. You're not feeling right in the head, if you're not getting enough sleep. They said then just to notice the differences in people. It was mentioned as well earlier on that if you were talking to someone today and you might have met them a few months ago and they're not quite the same person as you met before, maybe they're a bit more agitated, or they're not the outgoing type of person that they were before, maybe like not wanting to socialize with people. That was a big thing, and they're the type of people that you need to just listen to. Like I know they were mentioning about how important it is to smile, but as also I suppose we all have blessed with a pair of ears, and the best thing we can do as well is just listen to someone. That's if they're willing to talk, you have to listen. So look, there was a couple of other things to have a bit of empathy towards people as well, not to be judgmental. We've all come across someone who's suffering with some bit of mental health, like Charlie mentioned earlier on, that everyone has something at some stage, and it will hit everyone at some stage. So we need to have a little bit of empathy and not to be judgmental, I suppose, towards people. It's not a bad thing. It's not something that Jesus, he's something, he's not right, or he's a little bit upset, we'll stay away from him now tonight. It's the complete opposite. We should be talking to that person and get them to come and talk to us and invite them into our social circles and get it out of them, I suppose, in one way. Peter also mentioned that night that it's no good really to just ask the question and expect an answer or wait for an answer, kind of, all right, sure, you're grand, that's fine. Ask the question again, and keep asking the person until they actually will open up to you a bit more. I suppose just not being judgmental helps people to open up to you a bit as well. If you greet them with a smile and I suppose be yourself and be happy, and show your good side, you'll get that out of someone as well. You'll bring the good side out of them as well.
Yeah, Pat, that's just really sound advice, and thanks a million for coming on and giving us that insight. That has been really excellent. So thanks a million for that. In a word, turkey or a goose? What are you for Christmas dinner?
I'd eat anything, to be honest, Joe, but I would go for a turkey, I suppose.
Very good. Pat, well done on all the work you're doing there. Macro Farm is a great organisation, and I know we mentioned older people and that, but it's very important for young people as well, and that's that's what's really important. There's social isolation there as well with young people. We've noticed a lot. I know people, they can't go out anymore and meet people at the moment, so that's why Mark Farm is playing a vital role there as well. But thanks a million for coming on, and a very happy Christmas to you and a happy New Year.
And to you as well, Joe, and your listeners. Thanks very much.
Now we're sitting here in our Virtual Christmas Connect Café with Kerry Mental Health Association, a very special Christmas Saturday supplement. And I don't think I've interviewed this man yet, and I've been meaning to interview with the last few years. I could be wrong, but I'm sure I would have remembered if I interviewed the legendary Sonny Egan. Sonny, you're very welcome, and can I say you're looking well?
Oh, thanks, Joe. We're all done up first time in virtual today, and we look good. But you're looking good yourself, Joe.
Thank you very much. I have a Christmas jumper on here now as well. Just in case
yeah. I'm the same. I have a hat and I borrowed a scarf for the day. And sure, we're delighted to be here, Joe. We're on the year that was in it. And in my time growing up, like we did a lot of bog work and all that kind of stuff. And where I live now, if I had my leg up on the ditch, I'd be in 2 parishes and Kilflin. So I would have like Snare, Kilflin, and I'd be down, and I'm right in the middle of them. And the big thing in our area is the Holland, Cratchit Nails and the Holland. And there's also a little bit of history, because down in a place called Kiel Aspik Tarvin, which means the church of Bishop Tarvin, and the second bishop of Kerry is supposed to be buried there. No, I know there was a graveyard, an old graveyard, probably a famine one, but I often kind of searched around nowadays, see something belong to the bishop, which I never did, but that's the name of the place.
Yeah.
I tell you a story before. Listen, years ago, you know, people be going to the bog, and they going to the bog and go with the slan, and maybe you cut off yourself with the slan, I don't know, probably
often, sorry.
You might be young for it now, but anyway, the man would be, and he'd have his son, and he'd have the man that he'd have working, and then he'd have to get 2 extra fellows for the day. And these 2 brothers, no, they wouldn't kill themselves working, but they were witty. So the 5 of them anyway went to the bog, and you had the man on the slan, and a fellow breaching the turf, and a fellow spreading, and they know had the second fellow, and he'd draw the stuff out of the slan, and he'd have spreading. But after the first day, only 4 turned up. The second day, and one of the brothers never came. But they worked away anyway. And at the evening, the farmer was assessing the job. He said, "Do you know, Fats?" I say, "The 4 of us do more today than the 5 done yesterday." And the brother that came said, "I suppose if I stayed at home, the 3 would have finished it." No, I must tell you a story. He was all telling me about what you would have for the Christmas. And going to say, long ago there'd be fairs before the Christmas light, because that time people be selling cattle. They'd be selling turkeys and ducks, and they'd be selling geese. But there was this lady anyway, and at the end of the day, she maybe a month before Christmas, she'd pick up the stuff that wasn't sold at a handy price. The turkeys and the geese and the chickens, and she'd take them away and feed them, and they'd be nice and plump for Christmas Day. And then she'd nick them, and she'd clean them out and stuff them, and they'd all be ready to sell. And then she got a name for it. May was her name. But this year, she had them all sold, and there was 1 little goose left. She thought she'd never sell that goose. About 4:30 in the evening, it was getting dusk, and this fella came in from the country, himself and the mother that were living out the country, doing a bit of farm. The son came in anyway, and he got his few things, candles and that. And then he went in and he said to May say, "Would you have any little goose left?" And she looked, she had the one left. She said, "I have," she said, "just know maybe what you would want." And she brought out the goose, and it was parceled up now in a bit of brown paper, like there was no health and safety at that time, stuffed and all. And she said, "There now," says she, "is old goose." He was looking at it. He said, "May I see if the neighbours came in, we might have to give them a leg or a bit out of the breast and stuff, you know. Would you have anything bigger?" She went back in. "I have," she said. She went back in, and she took the paper off of the goose, and she wrapped it up, and she was pulling it this way, trying to make it look bigger. And she wrapped the paper around the goose and brought it back out, and it was the cock examiner at the time, and she could be reading that. He mightn't take too much notice of it. So she put it up on the counter anyway, and she said to him, "There," so she knows old goose. No matter who comes in, he'll have plenty. He was looking at me, as to say, "Just to be safe, I think I'll take the tube." So they got cut out in the long run. No.
So you're a tonic altogether. We could have you on for another hour, but unfortunately we are out of time. But I know you have a wonderful rambling house, and I'm sure you're looking forward to welcoming everyone in 2021 when everything will be right again.
Well, sure, at the moment, no. I suppose at this time of the year, no, we'll be calling around to the retirement homes and maybe the hospitals, if it was normal, like, and you know, you'd go in and you'd sing an old song and maybe play a tune for them on that, and that'd be a bit of a party. But this year we can't do it, like, because everything is on hold. But hopefully, you know, with the vaccine and everything, things will be right. Like, well, hopefully, you know, like, and especially it's saying that they're doing the elderly, like, and that will give great confidence to the people. The fact that you know that you can see the shore and that you're nearly there, and that's what the vaccine does. You're nearly there. It gives everyone new hope, like, and I would be one of those people, and Francis and the people as well, that did walk into one of these retirement homes maybe for an hour or so and do just what we're doing now, till a yard and have a talk.
So, Sonny Egan, thanks a million for coming on, and a very happy Christmas and a happy New Year to you. And I look forward to getting you into studio to have a right bit of crack.
Sure, yeah. Thanks a million, lads, and happy Christmas to everyone. And hopefully next year it will bring us, you know, a bit of time, because it's on the horizon. I need to get there.
Very good. Be warming up there, Sonny, because we're going to get you to sing us out. John Drummy, General Manager of Kerry Mental Health Association. I don't know about you, but this has been eye-opening to me this morning, this programme, and how important it is to look after our mental health. And we've had some great contributions this morning. But this new role, this is a new role for you as well. It must be, you know, it's much more than a job, this, that you're involved in. So it must be amazing to be organising this morning and being part of the wider Kerry Mental Health Association.
It is, Joe, and just to listen to everybody telling their stories and giving their information and their views and how they look after their mental health, it's great to hear, and it's inspiring, I'm sure, to lots of people listening to this or watching this when it's online in due course. I suppose just the reminder is that people just to have a routine if they can over Christmas, to stay connected if at all possible, be mindful of others who need connections. I know Francis mentioned the writing of the letter. I wrote a couple of letters myself recently. I felt good doing it, but I know that the person who received them felt better. It's just, it doesn't have to be anything too long. I know people make donations for instead of buying Christmas cards. Well, maybe this year consider buying the Christmas card and posting it or delivering it or just dropping it in the letterbox, and maybe make a donation too, but try and do both if you can. I just want to thank everybody for taking part. An interesting thing you said, Joe, actually was next year all sitting around the table in studio. I think let's make that booking now, and it would be great to have everybody in a studio at the same time, and we'll get B&B for Charlie to come down from Wicklow to join us as well. And I think that would be it would show that we've moved on and that time has moved forward and that we're all positive, and hopefully we'll all be safe and well by then. Happy Christmas to everybody on behalf of the Kerry Mental Health Association and our chairman, Pat O'Brien, and the board and our volunteers and Mental Health Ireland who helped with this particular programme. Happy Christmas, and just keep safe, everybody.
Well done, John. It's a stellar cast you lined up here this morning, and well done on putting it all together. Fantastic all together, and well done to all our contributors, and for the honesty as well from some contributors. Amazing as well. So everyone, look after yourself at home, and remember, pick up the phone, speak to a friend. There's always someone there. But we're going to finish out now with the legendary Sonny Egan is going to sing us a song. Take it away, Sonny.
Oh, sure, of course, and it being Christmas, we'll sing if you come on, Liz. You better watch out, you better not cry, you better watch out, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He knows when you're asleep and he knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been good and bad, so be good for goodness sake. So you better watch out, you better not cry, you better watch out, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming into town. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeers, you still haven't got him names. They would not let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer game. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then all the reindeers loved him, and they shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you go down in history last time. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on the one-horse open sleigh. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a one-horse open sleigh. Woo!
Done. That's a wrap.